South Africa is this week hosting a conference to promote the use of technology to solve some of the country's social challenges, titled University, Business and Partnerships, a driver for 4IR solutions post-COVID-19. The conference takes place from the 16th to the 18th March in Johannesburg. So the event will bring together speakers from government, higher education, media, tourism, climate change, activism, etc. So delegates will discuss how South Africa can repair its economy while prepping our industries for 4IR. Okay, joining us now to talk more about this is Dr. Chris Nhlapo. A very good evening to you, Mr. Nhlapo. I mean, we are talking about innovation all the time because COVID-19 just really showed us what the challenges are that are unforeseen. So how do you take this and turn it into a plus for people who don't even have the infrastructure, for instance? We're talking about the most unequal society in the world. How do you galvanize them to say, let's all get involved in finding solutions for a post-COVID-19 South Africa using 4IR?
Thank you very much, Chepi. So, in fact, that is the essence of this conference, looking at the lessons learned from COVID-19. There were things that before COVID-19 that we're thinking that they are very impossible. But we managed to finish our academic years, and we learned so many lessons. In fact, COVID-19 served as a catalyst to accelerate some of our program. And we realized that, some of the issues that we're talking about are issues of the 4IR. And the technologies that we're employing really are the technologies of 4IR. I'm talking about the Internet of Things. I'm talking about blockchain, for example. And the essence of this conference is really to look at that together with our partners in Ireland, across the continent, in Korea, to just look at the lesson learned and how we can ensure that we produce adaptable, solution-driven graduates.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's good that you talk about international partnership and international best practice in embarking on some of those things, but it's also about reframing the possibilities within South African context. What do we see as the challenges? What do we see as the advantages, especially if we're talking about scale and impact?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. From South Africa as well, some of the things that we unpacked today was really looking at issues beyond the hype and mania around 4IR. Because really, during COVID, we learned lessons that I think this is about the hard and soft system being integrated. It's about people and machines and how they interact. And when you look at it, really, we are talking here about the importance of soft skills, which are really hard skills or hard system. Because in the past, we used to think that now they are soft. But quite frankly, if you integrate the physical and the virtual, you are talking about what we normally do. Some of us, when we grew up, there used to be solutions around that. And we're actually saying that now, let us debunk some of the mania around 4IR. And let's also take note to say, where are we? What is it that our curriculum is actually saying? And we also look at, for example, economics, the role of blockchain revolution. And we know that this is a technology that is actually good for the future of the country, and how, as in higher education institution, we can actually look at issues like coding, for example, at a very, very basic level, and to ensure that we contribute to the economic development.
So what we need, I'd imagine, is a system-wide, unified set of approaches. So how do we then reconcile what would be seen as discrete and disconnected programs? And if you could also perhaps use a business community as an example.
Yes, I think that's why we were having business. We were also having industry because there is that disconnect. But if we are to tackle the problem that we are having, that unemployed graduate, skills mismatch, it is important that we speak as a unit. And when we design curriculum, we work together. And business were also sharing us some of the problem in terms of the graduates that we are actually producing. For example, there was somebody presenting around architect and how are some of the program that they are having can assist institutions. Because our problem as a country need an integrated and a coherent approach to some of the problems. And I think business and ourselves must actually speak the same language.
From the university point of view, what do you see as your talent strategies? We're talking about disenfranchised or previously disadvantaged communities. What would you employ there? Because sometimes you don't know that you're either capable of something or you have an interest in something unless it's opened up to you, that you're probably already doing it. So what is your talent strategy in terms of that and correlating the right students to the right sectors using the fourth industrial revolution?
I think universities, particularly from their HEMIS office, or institutional planning, they should actually employ at least one data analyst. And the data analyst will be able to unpack the data and be able to know the student. You need to know your student, where they come from, and what are the challenges. And really, you should actually not talk about outreach, but talk about proper engagement with universities, with the communities, to ensure that students are prepared, students are not seeing some of the facilities for the very first time when they come to universities. A typical example would be making sure that your postgraduate students, they interact with the learners, and you open up your facilities at university to ensure that communities can actually have access. And I think that if we can actually do that, half of the problems will be solved, because some of the problems really they are coming from the primary schools. But I think it's not a question of pointing fingers. How we can collectively ensure that we develop human resource necessary for the fourth industrial revolution as a country.
So other two important factors of what you said was the use of data analytics would be evaluate. From evaluate, though, you've got to invest and then promote. What strategies ought to be employed that we've learned from COVID-19 in terms of strategy?
We've learned from COVID-19 that we are having tools in our own hands that can assist the whole process of learning. We have talked about devices that are in the hands of our students. I'm talking about cell phone. Almost every student is having a cell phone. That is a massive tool that can assist the whole process of learning. We've seen people using simple WhatsApp to ensure that classes are continuing. There are so many other platforms that we have actually learned during COVID that, you can actually have a meeting, you can learn from almost anywhere. And we need to start now rethinking how we adapt our policies now accordingly to ensure that now this medium, these platforms are used to improve our efficiencies as a system and as a sector.
Okay. So as you say, and I'd like to stay with the issue of investment. So some of it, as you say, does not necessarily need financial investment, but if there needs to be some form of advocacy, and as I said, in terms of promotion, one would imagine then there are free resources like skills transfer, skills development, but there must be a clear program to do that. So is there enough engagement from all sectors in the public policy development thereof?
Yes, in fact, TENSA, which is the Technology Higher Education Network South Africa, together with its partners, we are actually advocating for a number of strategies to assist the sector. Because when you look at it, there are so many savings if we employ the technology that we can actually save to ensure that now our investment are channeled towards creating appropriate platforms that can actually build requisite skill for the country. And that's the notes that we're actually sharing. And our partners in Ireland, we're also sharing with us some of their strategies as to how they avoided issues like brain drain and brain circulation, and we also share ours. But I think it's very, very important that as we play our advocacy role at the policy level, it's important that now the government, the private sector also invest in the development of the human resource for the country. And it's possible if, for example, issues of tax breaks is afforded to some of the business to be able to invest, the tax incentives, for example, to invest and develop the human resource development for the country. Otherwise, as a country, we'll be left behind if we don't have concerted effort to invest in human resource development for the fourth industrial revolution.
And that discrimination, would it be pointed towards sectors of the community who under normal circumstances would not have those opportunities? I mean, I know we're living in a world where, as we're evolving, there's no such thing as there's ageism in the type of jobs or gender bias, but it's a reality, though, that a great deal of these demographics are left behind, including race in South Africa. That's the reality. So if we're talking about the future of work and youth development, what have you then identified in how we could be innovative about changing the status quo?
We also look at sometimes when you I've talked about issues around fear, uncertainty, and doubt around this 4IR. And there were people who were even saying that, this 4IR is meant for certain countries. But you and I, Tsepi, so you know that now, as we speak, we are affected by events in Ukraine and Russia because we are living in a connected world. All that we're saying, even knowledge, we must actually make sure that we embrace all the knowledges, because in many cases people think that some of the traditional knowledge that you used to have, that we have seen actually play a part during COVID, indigenous knowledge, for example, that we have to go back to say, did we learn something when people were going all over the place looking, for example, Umkhwenyane or Lingana in South Sotho? That how can university actually ensure that these knowledges are actually embraced so that we can be as accommodative as possible, and also look at the issues of ethics as well? Because quite frankly, 4IR is talking about that kind of transformation. It's actually talking about embracing all the knowledges so that a system can be enriched. Yes.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Dr. Chris Nhlapo is the Vice-Chancellor. He is from the Cape Peninsula University.